right. Here we are. Camera 1, camera 2. Coffee with Friends, episode number 6. We are out here. We are not in our usual setup, although we've like switched up our setup multiple times.
That's true.
But we are not in our usual setup because we're not in Austin. We're actually in Dallas.
The best place.
Yes, our old
Hiking.
stomping grounds, the best city in the world. We love it. Austin, you're cool, but nah, Dallas is a place to be. So we are out here with episode 6.
Xiomi's like, can we not say that?
Just zoom in. It's just a tear.
I mean, hey, you know, Dallas,
Bring me back.
you gotta show love.
Yeah.
But we are here with a guest, and not just any guest, a special guest, and our first guest. You're our first guest on the podcast.
This is true.
What were the first 5?
Just
it's
us
just y'all.
yapping.
Okay,
Yeah,
just
we're just
y'all
yapping.
vibing out.
We're just
Just
yapping.
talking.
Yeah.
Nice.
But you're our first guest, and a very special guest. Those of you who are watching, who have followed us and our story for a long time since our Dallas days, will know exactly who this man is. Those of you who don't, this is a great podcast because you'll get to know who he is. We are sitting with Vincent Holland, the GOAT.
Thank
the
y'all for
legend.
having me. It's an honor to be here. Yeah, it's
Like,
an honor.
Thank you for being here. This is
Yeah.
crazy. I've been excited for this since I told you.
Yeah, since you said yes, he's not stopped.
Yeah,
He's
I've been
just
trying.
Like, I'm so excited.
The timing was great because when you sent it to me, I was like, I think it's like I felt like it was a good situation to do it.
Yeah, that's
Let's
awesome.
do it, man. I'm so excited. So I'm going to let you kind of give yourself an introduction and kind of give context to our listeners and viewers for those of you who don't know who he is. And then we're going to just go right into it. So I want to ask you in a fun way because I find this being a little bit hard, explaining who you are in a sentence. If you had one sentence, if you had the whole world's attention and you had like 30 seconds, right? Like a sentence to explain who you are, what would you say?
I would say I'm a human being. I'm not AI.
Oh.
And I am here to imperfectly execute on life. And what I mean by that is just simply like I love having a growth mindset. And I think today it's June 15th, 2024. And by July 1st, I may have changed my mind on everything we say today. So don't take it too serious. But yeah, that's kind of where I'm at right now.
Yeah.
I love it. Here's the thing too. If you're watching, like, get a notepad or something, get like your phone out, because this man drops one-liners like nobody's business, and he's doing it without trying. Like, it's not that cringe.
It's because I'm old enough to have been here when Twitter started.
Yeah.
So
You had a
when
limited
Twitter
set of
first came
characters.
out, your goal was like you had a certain amount
It's
of
120.
yeah, 120. What was it? Words
Yeah.
or
Characters.
Yeah. And so I learned through Twitter. Shout out to Twitter.
Dude, let's go. Yeah.
I don't even
X.
think it's called
All
Twitter
right,
anymore.
Twitter.
Yeah.
It's called X.
Elon,
Threads?
what you doing, bro?
X threads.
X,
Threads?
Threads,
Threads
whatever.
is trash, bro. I'm sorry.
Oh yeah,
man.
that's the different.
I'm sorry. Like, it's not it. Anyway, cool. All right, I love that. Yes. And we can both firsthand agree that is absolutely who this man is. He's definitely saying who he
sure.
is, and he's not lying.
And I did not sponsor this, so that's not why they're speaking so highly of me.
No, we're speaking so highly because we actually have done a lot of life with this man.
Yeah.
It's been actually 4 years or something since we've like been together.
Yeah.
And talked.
Crazy.
But
4 years
a
ago,
long
they
time.
left me. They left me in the dust 4 years ago.
I had a conversation with you.
Yeah.
Fair.
You
I
did.
I
You did.
don't know
yeah.
about him.
No, I definitely left.
It was in the pandemic though. Like I don't it's very blurry for me to
Everything's
be
a
honest.
blur.
Yeah.
But we did do lots of life together. We ran together, dreamed together, cried together, laughed together. I mean, beautiful times. We always say you'll probably catch us singing all the time if you talk to us and we share about our time in Dallas. But definitely like the highlight of our life thus far, like just memories and experiences that we did together and just running around this city doing stupid stuff and crazy stuff and things that no one was doing.
Yeah.
And I'm going to stand on business on that real quick. Nobody was doing what we were doing,
boy,
bro.
here we
I'm
go.
sorry. Like, nobody, bro. Like, it was crazy.
Yeah.
It was a trip. It
For
was
better
fun.
or for worse.
Yeah, that's facts. That's true, but it was awesome. And
We
so-
did make a track in the back seat of my car.
We did.
Yeah, we did that.
man, this, if you guys don't know, just to drop more game, like he was the Kanye to his Travis Scott.
Oh,
Essentially.
my.
Do not call me Kanye, bro. That's the last person I'm trying to be
Good
compared
Kanye, good Kanye. No, but like
Good Kanye.
yeah, we were. I mean, we did a lot of really fun stuff, just in the city and for the community, that no one really was doing at the time, or at least at that level, in my opinion. And that, whatever, you can crucify me for that, but I'm gonna speak on that and say that that's what happened. It was dope. It was good times. But anyway. So we can go on forever about that, but I want us to jump into some of this stuff because what Vincent has been doing, he'll share in a little bit, but he's really been creating and leading, being one of the leaders of this incredible movement that's happening in Dallas, through just the community and through a run club, Oak Cliff Run Club, through Say Less projects. And I'm going to stop talking about that and let him bring it up. But we wanted to really talk with you for multiple reasons. One, it is Men's Mental Health Awareness Month. That's a big thing for me and a big thing for you. So I would love for you to shed some light on that. And I know that that's a big part of why you do what you do. But also I would love to just hear you talk about, again, with this community, how you done that. Like, what's the secret in your opinion? Like, what has been the most helpful thing that you've seen? Like, just take us into that stuff. So the first question I would love to ask you, and then we can kind of go from there, is how's life been? What you been up to?
Life is beautiful, man. I just got back, and we'll talk about it. I just got back from doing the run from Dallas to Austin, which was crazy. It was probably the craziest thing I've ever done, with some of the most beautiful, incredible people that made it possible. But life is good. My daughter's good. She's 11 going on 30. She's incredible. She's healthy, which makes me happy. She's doing well. I'm doing good. I'm healthy. Life is good. I can't complain.
I love that. That's crazy to think too. Wow, 11.
Yeah, I mean, y'all got to see her when she was
Little,
a baby,
man.
a little
Wow.
girl. Now
little.
she's taken over.
That's crazy.
She's very much like me.
Yeah.
And
Oh, I
so
can
it's
imagine.
like,
Hey, I love it.
but
I love it.
she's awesome.
Love it. So that being said, lots of stuff has happened in these past couple of years with you, growth and all that stuff. We can get into that a little later, but I kind of want to fast forward to now, right?
Yeah.
What you're doing now, Oak Cliff Run Crew, all that. How did that start? Why did that start? Take us into that process, because I think it's extremely interesting.
Yeah, so Oak Cliff Run Crew was started by myself, my friends Ian, Patrick, and Haley. We all met right around 2021, like right fresh out of the pandemic. And so I would say, long story short, it started because all four of us needed community. All three of them, I met all three of them pretty much at the same time in Bishop Arts. We all met at Tribal. All Day Cafe. Shout out to Tribal. Shout out to Brennan Haley, my homies.
Yeah.
But Brennan Haley created an environment for community.
Yeah.
And so then in that environment, I was needing community. And when I met them three, they all had like this theme of like running or having a past with running. And so when I met Ian, I was desperate for something. Like, I didn't know what. I just needed something to do, because everything that I was doing kind of like fell apart during COVID. And so we got to talking, and I mentioned to him just briefly, like, hey, if I were to do a run, I would love to do the New York City Marathon. Because y'all know I love New York, and that's really the only thing I knew about running racing wise. I didn't know that there's races all over the world and constantly. So Ian, being Ian, comes back with like a whole plan and like strategy of how I can go do the New York City Marathon that year.
Wow.
So it was like couch to marathon, like, and I had some running background. Like, I used to run with a group of friends periodically, but nothing like nothing like
That's like-
this.
Yeah.
And especially then, I was not with that community, so I wasn't running, I wasn't doing anything. I was in these streets, and so
amongst the people.
yeah, and so I was like, all right, this man took time to put this together. I'm gonna give it a shot, and I'm a firm believer that if it's supposed to happen, there'll be like confirmations.
Yeah.
And that's what happened, like the confirmation of him bringing the plan. Then I had to do a charity route to get into the New York City Marathon, and that got taken care of, another confirmation. So there was just all of that. Long story short, I went by myself to New York. It was the 50th anniversary. It was the first New York City Marathon post-COVID. And I'll never forget being on the ferry to Staten Island, and I'm asking people if they've ever done it. And this guy looked at me, he's like, this is your one moment where you get to be LeBron James. And I was like, what? And he's like, you'll see. And New York gets so lit for this. I mean, you are being cheered for the whole marathon, and it is
That's
crazy.
amazing.
So anyways, I come back, we start our run crew, and in particular, me and Patrick had sat down and talked about, he had a dream of doing a run crew, and we talked about like how we wanted it to look and how we wanted it to be. And we started it, and we started with 4 of us, and our thing is like 4 of us to more of us, and we just started grinding. And the first few years, well, we're about to celebrate 3 years this August.
That's awesome.
So the first 2 years,
Wow.
we're literally 4, 2, 6, 10, 20, 15. You're saying goodbye to people. You got people coming for a little bit and then they leave, or people move or whatever. And then we just stuck to it. Like, this is who we are. This
Yeah.
is what we're about. This is what we do. And we've tried to stick to very few basics and not waver from those. And I think that that's what's helped build momentum. And then January of this year, it started last year in May, but really this year, January, just blew up.
Wow.
That's awesome.
So many just like bags and like nuggets of just awesome insight, man. Like, again, just for those of you who don't know, like, this dude, he's a savant in community building. Like, there's no one that I've met that knows how to authentically create community and find people that are better than you at doing things, and like he's just like the dream team, like a team, like, you know how to bring people together. And I love that you're not afraid to like step back and let people do their thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know? And I think that's like a big part of being a good leader and like helping build community, is that you know when you lead and when you sit back and let others kind of do their thing and create it. And I love that it's been 4 of you. And
Yeah.
now how big is it now? Like, how much has it grown since then?
I mean, we have well into thousands of people who've come. Like, we're averaging around like 300 to 400 people
It's insane.
a week. We had like 470 this past Thursday night.
Insane, guys.
And it's crazy because we're no gimmicks. Like, we really are grassroots. Like, that's one of the things that I'm gonna be real. Like, I'm gonna be honest.
Do
Like,
it.
I pride myself. We pride ourselves in the fact that like we didn't have a budget.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
didn't have a brand. We didn't have a backing. We still don't. Like, we started, Ian helped us set up our nonprofit status. And I mean, Ian
amazing.
would spend his own money. We do raffles at the end, but
Yeah.
it's not like these raffles are like, crazy. Sometimes
Yeah.
they really are like cost, but they're usually more about the creativity of it from
Yeah.
Ian's point.
Yeah.
But we just run, like, and it's hot. It's Dallas.
Yeah.
We got people worrying me, fainting, and it's just like hot in these streets. Like,
That's the thing that's crazy, is you got people to show up to do something that like innately we hate.
yeah, absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I think it's so
Yeah.
funny. Like, again, some of you guys like love it. I hate it. I suck at running. I hate it. But like, the fact that you can bring people and be like, we're gonna do this,
Yeah.
and they're all in, and it's not something that they're like, it's not producer consumer
Yeah.
type of thing. It's not like you go and you gain something. Like, you gain something, but like, you're giving your
Yeah.
body. Like, you're
Yeah.
literally giving your time. You're sweating, you're cramping the next day. And then like, I love that, it's easy for a business, a church or whatever, an organization that gives for people to like buy in
For sure.
because they're
Yeah.
gaining something.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
But when you're like, no, we're going to run, like we're doing something that pushes our body to the limit, like it's
Yeah.
uncomfortable and people are saying, yes, let's do that.
Yeah.
I think that's like next level. That's next level commitment. That's next level loyalty. That's
Yeah.
next level vision
Mm-hmm.
to give people something to be like, we're gonna do this, man, in the
And-
hot Dallas sun.
I posted recently thanking some of our people that were there in the beginning and that are, some of them are still there, but like we would meet like literally in front of like trap houses. Like there was just crazy stuff going on. And then like as more women got involved, we were having that conversation of like, we need to move. Like,
Yeah.
we gotta switch the vibe up. Like we gotta get somewhere safe where there's
Yeah.
well lit. And
Yeah.
now we run the bridge, which was one of the
So
best
cool.
decisions we ever made. You get to
Yeah.
run into the city. We
That's
have one
awesome.
of the
That bridge is
view
one of the best bridges in the world, man.
Oh,
I love
yeah.
that
It's-
bridge.
it's-
Going from
it's the
Oak Cliff
best.
into downtown, it's just
we take
beautiful.
we love that bridge so much. The other day we saw a commercial and some brand used like imagery from that bridge, and we were like, they didn't ask us. Like, that's our bridge. Like
Yeah.
that's
Own
our
that, bro.
bridge.
Yeah.
How
Like,
dare they?
but
Yeah.
I love it. So take me into and I love it. You're rocking the shirt. Say less. What is that? Where'd that come from? And like, what is that relationship with like Oak Cliff Run Crew, if there is any? Like, how does
I mean,
how does
it's
you do that?
separate from Oak Cliff Run Crew, obviously, because I'm doing it. It connects, I guess, at that level,
Yeah.
but it's completely separate. And it really is just because y'all know me. I have 1,000 ideas every day, and 999 of them don't work. But every now and then you get lucky and one just happens. But I knew Mental Health Awareness Month last month was coming up, and I'm a part of this Sound Mind, Sound Body program. Shout out to ASICS. I get to be a part of that.
That's awesome.
And
That's so cool.
I talked to them about wanting to do something for that.
Yeah.
And one night I was just like, what can I do? What do I want to do? And for whatever reason, I thought of the term say less, because it's something that we all kind of say. And I wrote a note out and I thought about doing this run. And then one thing led to another. I created a website, sent the website invite to some people,
Yeah.
and they said less. And next thing I know, we're doing it.
Yeah.
And I really created Say Less just to give some kind of activation to that run. But I didn't know what it was going to turn into. And so now it's like I'm in the process of turning it into a nonprofit, and we're doing a run this month for Men's Health Month. My friend Daniel and his friends are going to lead it. But the vision, I guess, for right now, and it's evolving, it's very fresh and new. But I think what sparked it for me was like I wanted to create something where people could
Yeah.
serve and volunteer,
Yeah.
but I didn't want it to be tied to religion or politics or like you have to be this to do this.
Yeah.
I want it to be everybody can be involved in this at some level. And so it's really what it is. It's volunteer projects. Like I have a guy doing all the graphics. He's volunteering. I'm very open about like, it's volunteer. So like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not getting paid. No one's getting paid.
Yeah.
And when we officially become an official nonprofit, I want 100% of the donations to go towards the projects.
Yeah.
Because I feel like
awesome.
it's so needed, because a lot of people can't stand charity or organizations because it's like, where's the money going?
Yeah.
What is
Yeah.
this even about? What are
Yeah.
we doing? And like,
Yeah.
I just wanted to do positive projects.
Yeah.
It's good.
I love it. I love it. I want you to go ahead and ask this question.
Oh, okay. Take us into your relationship with mental health
Yeah.
and why it's important to you.
Yeah. I mean, I think we're in a day where we are very lucky to be in a day where that's a big conversation.
Yeah.
For the last many years, I think COVID was like the
catalyst for
linchpin.
it.
Yeah, that like threw it up and was like, hey, something isn't right, because we all had to stay in
We're all
and we all
struggling.
lost our minds and we
Yeah,
all lost a
for-
lot of
for
things.
reals.
Yeah.
And there's other reasons for that, but
sure.
with mental health, the biggest thing that really sparked it was, one, first and foremost, for me, going through COVID, going through a divorce, going through stepping down from a role that I had been in for many years and being a part of a community, realizing like for all the the pros and cons of what I was involved in. One of the biggest pros was I was in an environment, I didn't realize it at the time, but in an environment where there was a lot of promotion towards doing great things and helping and serving and positivity. And when you're in those bubbles, you forget that like that's not really how most people live.
Yeah.
Like most people aren't being told every day, you can do more, you're greater, like you have more in you. Like we just got used to that. Like I just thought that's just how it is. Like and that's why I would get so frustrated when y'all weren't doing what I saw y'all able, or I got frustrated with myself.
And I did not do it, that's for sure.
No, you did. But I think then fast forward, so there's all that. And then and I've been open about this, but I lost my father to suicide. And, you know, suicide, it's a mental health issue that there's a lot of things that led up to that. Yeah. And so that obviously was like the atomic bomb for me that really got me into like, man, this mental health thing is so real because I also like, I've never, thankfully, and it's not because I'm special, it's just DNA, whatever, but like, I've never really dealt with like anxiety or depression. Like I'm a pretty positive, optimistic, full of life, energy. But I run into people all the time. And I have always ran into people who have mental health issues. And if I'm being real, and I probably have done this to you and others, if I'm being honest, like I think until it becomes personal for you, it's so easy to be like, yo, just get up, like get up, let's go. Come on,
facts.
you can do it. You can do it.
Yeah, for sure.
Not knowing that there are so many reasons why that person is the way they are. Just like there's a reason why I am the way that I am. And so when I lost my father, and I had my own issues, and talking with my partner and my friends and seeing and really paying attention to what was really going on and actually listening, not listening with already my rebuttal. Then I was able to really see like, oh, this is a problem.
No, that's like, real. That's so real. And you know, you said something that I think we talked about a little bit in our last one of our podcasts. I think we were talking about lament and like lamenting. And how I was the same way for a long time. Like, even though I went through a lot of my crazy stuff, but like, I was always very much so like, just get over it, get up, let's move, let's keep going, and try to like regurgitate the truths that we all know.
And I think that comes from like growing up in that, like in that environment that you're talking about. That's like so easy to just be like, well, like you can do more, you can be better, like things will. And it's easy to be blinded by those things and just kind of have that tunnel vision, because I mean, realistically, like I also was the same way, even though I did struggle with mental health. I just felt like, well, just like, let's move on. And then I think it wasn't until like recently, probably until like I changed careers and started like doing something else that it really like flipped the switch in my head that like, oh, like, there is more to this than just like, well, like God's got it, like just move on.
Yeah, exactly.
And God's got it, but like we're just people, we're just humans, and we have to process these things. And like it is okay to struggle, and it is okay to be in this spot. It's just not okay to like sit in that spot for longer than you need to.
Yeah, and something we always say too is like God loves using people more than He loves using Himself. Like He loves using people. And a lot of times with like mental health, what we've found, and probably yourself, is that, you know, and we always advocate this, medication, therapy, get it. You need it, get it, use it. But I have found that like just community and people to talk to, vent to, carry you, mourn with you, celebrate with you has been like one of the greatest remedies. And ways to kind of like continue past that, or at least move. And again, like those things don't go away, but they become easier to deal with when you do it with people. And with that, I want to ask you, going into the kind of that vein, like community then, right? Talking about community and the importance of community with mental health. How have you seen it in your life? How are you seeing it in the people, whether it's Oak Cliff Run Crew, Say Less, but like where does community lie with all that? Like, where is that important, and how does that help with people mental health wise?
Yeah, in my opinion, it's everything because it's like the term misery loves company. If you're like in a miserable environment around people who are miserable, that's still community. Because I think some people think when you say community, like it's automatically like community is positive. It's good for you.
Yeah.
But community can be to your detriment. It can destroy you if you're in the wrong community. If you're around people who are belittling you, discouraging you, taking you down a path that's not good for you, that's a community going in the wrong direction.
Yeah.
And so I think community is life or death. I mean, I've been in environments where there's a lot of, like I just said, like if you're in community where everybody is encouraging you, uplifting you, pushing you, motivating you, the chances are you're going to do something. Like I used to tell you guys, and I tell people this now, like if you don't know what to do with your life, look for people who are doing something good and just go get around them. Yeah. Cause it's like a tornado. Like they'll just make you do stuff that you never even, you may not even want to do it. You might be like, I don't want to serve. I don't want to give, but all right, let's try it. And we have that happen now. Like I love, one of my favorite things about the run crew that I get to be a part of is seeing people that they, their first few weeks, they're very quiet, very shy, but as they get comfortable, because our community, our run crew is very, I would say it's very like community driven in the sense of like open, come as you are. If you don't want to talk, you don't have to talk, but we're going to talk to you. We're here for you. And people will thrive in that environment and end up, we're getting to see other sides of them. So the answer, long story short, I would say it's super important.
How would you define community? Like what would be, because there's so many different, especially nowadays with just kind of where I think the rubber band effect of because of COVID and everything, now we're leaning into community more than ever and craving authentic community. Because of that, I think there's so many definitions now of what community is and so many different ways of thought and like what is community, what's not community. So in your words, how would you describe what community is?
I mean, community is being present with people consistently over time, and it's beautiful, it's messy, it's up, it's down, it's all over the place if you're genuinely doing it. Because people say community, and I just said this the other day on my Instagram story. I'm like, just because you put if you put Oak Cliff on your location for your post,
I saw that,
but you're not out here, like you're not in community, like. And I think that I'm very passionate about it because I used to say this amongst the people, and I still believe that. Like, I still believe that, like, if you're not with people, you're not in community. Like,
for sure.
And because you buy a coffee once a week from a place in a community doesn't mean you're in community. And that's just my opinion.
That's fact.
Everybody has their version of community. And let's also be honest, community, it can suck. Because in community, your flaws get exposed. In community, you get your heart broken. Because to be in true community, you have to put your heart on your sleeve. And as a leader, and I'll be the first to admit, like, I'm not going to always, as a community leader, I'm not going to always say it right. I'm not going to always do it right. I'm going to make mistakes. And I think a good community is where you hopefully, and I don't get this right all the time, but you allow people to grow, to get better, and to flourish. And so that's what I would say are some key things about community.
That's good.
No, I love that. I agree wholeheartedly. And that's part of what we've been trying to do with Coffee with Friends and I Love You, Please Stay, and just who we try to carry ourselves as is like the whole come as you are, like, and we always say it too, like, come with your burdens, or leave them out the door and come here and like forget about it. Like either whichever one you choose. Like let your yes be yes and own it and come full heartedly. But I think, love that you said that.
And I think another thing that's important about communities, they can look different. Because I'll be the first to admit, like I'm very like hardcore about what I see, what I believe, and like this is what it looks like, guys. But community for some people is You know, they play card games.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And while they're playing, they're talking, they're getting to know each other. So that, like, while that's not my jam, like, who's like, they're building community.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They're doing it.
Yeah.
It just looks different.
Yeah.
And so I've been guilty of, like, if I see something that I don't jam with or I think is not cool for me, I can be like, that's not community.
No,
but
I agree.
that's bull. Like
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
community.
Yeah.
Or
No, I agree.
bingo nights, you know, like
People
whatever.
are
Like,
into
Yeah, hey, they'll go hard, you know.
yeah.
But I agree.
Yeah.
I am the first one as well to do that, and we can be critical about it. And I think that's what's so beautiful about community is that it's so broad and so fluid that it could be just you know, a guy's night with whiskey and a couple cards, or a bingo night, or just going on a run, going on a walk, like
Yeah.
a podcast, you know, whatever you put what that is. But I think the fluidity of that is what makes it so accessible. And I think that's what people are looking for. Is it accessible and is it authentic?
Yeah.
Because the thing is, as you were saying, like you could have a bad community. You could also have a fake community.
Yeah.
Or a community that's only trying to gain something out of you being there.
Yeah. And if you try to be authentic, you've already lost.
And that's the thing I wanted to
Because
ask you.
like
Yeah.
you can't try to be authentic.
Yeah.
Like you just are who you are.
Yeah.
That's what I wanted to ask you next is authenticity and community. Like, yeah, take us into that and your whole thought process with that. Cause that's another big buzzword.
I'm super passionate about this too, because like I am someone who I called to be transparent. Like even before this, I called you and I was like, you sure you want to do this? Cause like, I'm going to be me 100. Like I'm going like
Let's
train and it can't be stopped.
Let's do it.
And so in community, when you're authentically yourself, I think it's important that you understand, you're not going to be liked by everybody. Like you're going to attract the people that are supposed to be attracted to you, and you're going to detract. That's the cool part about being authentic, is you're going to detract the people that don't need to be near you.
Yeah, that's cool.
And I think when you're immature as a leader, and I have been, you want everybody. You want like, I need everybody to follow me and do what I want and go where I want. But as you mature as a leader, you begin to realize like, I'm not for everyone.
Yeah.
Just like some people, and that's what's cool about having community. Like in my context in Dallas, there's multiple versions of run clubs, and I think that it's cool that people can go to the one that's their jam and their thing, and that's what it is.
Yeah, I love that. And you know, to pull it into a little bit more of like our context with like the church side of things, it's the same way. Like I agree. It's like go to what suits you, you know, and what your jam is, and like where you feel like you vibe and connect and feel seen. I think that's a big thing, feeling seen and heard and loved.
And if you're, you know, what we said was one of the traits of being in communities, like it's going to take time. And so if you're not being real, eventually the real you is going to come out. They say, right? Like eventually we're going to see, wait a minute, like that's not what you posted on Instagram.
Yeah.
Like I talk ish on Instagram because I'm a talk ish in your face. Like I'm here.
Yeah.
Like, let's go. Let's do it. Like just be yourself.
Yeah.
I love that.
I think that like, even just take it back into the context of like the church, it's such a hard place to be yourself sometimes.
Oh God.
Because there's like expectations of other kinds and other sorts. And so, I mean, that's something I've had to learn for me is like how battling this, like, okay, well, I'm up there leading worship, but I'm also not, I'm so unserious. Like I'm not this like person who's like, oh, holy God, you know, like I, in the context of worship, yes, but like, as my, like, that is part of who I am. That is part of like my life. But like at the table, playing cards, drinking coffee, I'm a different, it's not just that. And I think that's something that happens a lot in the church. When you're in a certain position, the expectation is one thing. And so it can really, not derail, but it can really just like kind of put a rift into like, how do I be myself and still meet the expectation people have of me? But there is like, you have to kind of let that expectation go and be like, well, this is me. And this is what I look like there, but this is also what I look like here. And just because I'm so unserious and always joking and always doing XYZ, it doesn't mean that I can't do both things authentically as myself. And I think a lot of my mental health battle came from things like that, like battling this, like people see me like this, but I'm really like this, and they kind of don't match. But, you know, eventually like learning that like it doesn't even matter, because at the end of it all, I'm still going to be just this same person.
Yeah.
And in that context, it's so wild because you're judged on an hour.
Right.
Like, this is an hour of my life. Like, I brush my teeth. Do you not like the way I brush my teeth? Like, I have other things that I'm a human. And I think in that context, like, I think the goal is we're in a lifelong journey of an aspiration to marry the two of like what you see me as and who I am. Like I'm trying to constantly perfect that, like, this is who I am. But also, if you have a growth mindset, you're going to constantly be changing. And so that's why it's so important that your friends and your close group understand that. And, you know, it is what it is.
Yeah, that's so good, because I find that so difficult, that tension of like who you are and who you want to be, or who you want people to perceive you as. There's this, you know, in Japan, I forgot the name of it, but there's like that whole concept of there's three masks that you wear. One that everyone in the world sees, one that your closest friends and family see, and the one that you really are. And it's a constant shifting of like, which one is it? Which one am I today? And I always think about like that scene in The Wizard of Oz of like, you see the smoke and mirrors, and you just pull back the curtain, and there's this whack dude just sitting there like doing like, you know what I mean? And like, I find myself looking for that little guy. Dude. It's true, because I find myself trying to find that little guy in me. Yeah. Like, where is he? You know, and because he's there. Yeah. He's there. And like, sometimes it's who I am in a good way, and sometimes it's who I don't want to be, or what I'm ashamed of. Yeah. And I think that tension, and that not just church, but just all communities, all of us as human beings, like, our tension is, like you said, marrying the two and seeing like, which part of me am I going to show you today? Yeah, exactly. Or which part do I feel comfortable showing? And that goes back to community again. If you're in a community where you feel like you got to put on this facade or this show, that's exposing that you're in a toxic community. And the thing about being in toxic community is like, everyone in it doesn't even know. Like I've been in environments where like you're so used to it and nobody even realizes that it's unhealthy, because that's your new normal. Like it's what you do, it's how you operate. And until you get, and sadly, usually the only way you find out is you get ripped out of it. And during the ripping phase, you think like your world's falling apart. You think everything's like you fell, blah, blah, blah. But then when you get out and you can find more of a healthy environment for yourself, and you're not blaming them and you're not a victim, and it's just about what's good for you, then now you're in a good position to find good community and like fresh oxygen and can breathe. So what's like, on that point, what would you say is like the tension of community, like the hard parts, the ugly, because there's a good, bad, and the ugly. Oh yeah. Like, take us into that. The hardest part is, you know, managing. I guess I'm speaking from the standpoint of someone who's leading communities. It's hard because everybody's so different. And it's easier to lead a community when everyone's from the same place, same ethnicity, same everything. The more same it can be, the easier it is to lead, because you all got the same pretty much issues, outlook, problems, same upbringing. But I would say for diverse community, it's so hard because everybody's got different traumas, different passions, different ways of seeing things and doing things. And so that can be really challenging. And just the challenge is to be patient. It's hard. So that interesting you say that, because then my next question was, because I agree, it's so true. Like, it's so hard because everyone's in different places. How do you manage the whole tension of wanting to go somewhere, bring people somewhere, and certain people are running at your pace and those who aren't? What do? Do you stop the whole pack to wait for that person? Do you say, hey, let's pick it up and have that person try to run at the pace, because I think that's a hard tension when you're leading a community, because there's people that are going to be running at your level or wanting to go, and there's people that are a little bit slower or need more time. And I think that what's really hard is trying to meet the needs of both, of people who want to go at it and are ready and they want more, and people are like, I need a little more time. Like, how do you reconcile that, dealing with those two groups of people?
The answer will be different depending on the context. Like if like for instance, if I'm in community and I'm not the leader, like I either am gonna need to go at the pace of whatever that community is trying to do, or recognize that maybe this isn't where I need to be, or I don't need to be a leader. Like I just need to enjoy the benefits of community. I just had this conversation last night with someone that, one thing when I look back, it's like everybody thinks they want to be a leader, or everybody wants to be in the spotlight. Everybody wants to be at the forefront. But sometimes it's great when you just get to show up and enjoy the benefits of community. Because I would say, like, unless, like for me, like unless you wake up and something is nagging you, bothering you, you have to do something about it. That's when you know you're supposed to lead. You're either supposed to lead within your community, or you need to start your own thing. But a lot of people, I think most people, and there are times in my life when I was most people and should have done this instead of trying to lead, is just enjoy the community. Like enjoy the run, enjoy the coffee, enjoy meeting people. And I think now on the other side of that, for me as a leader, where I struggle sometimes is letting people do that. Because I will make everyone be a leader. I want everyone to do something. And so I think for me, I'm learning, I'm growing as a leader to recognize that, hey, let some people, they don't need to lead. They don't want to lead, and that's okay. Not everyone has to be a leader. And then for me, to answer your question, as far as like where I stand on that as leading a community, when there are people who, I guess, like aren't where you're at. I've had times, and I want to be transparent on here. Like I've had times where I mismanaged that because I was trying to have people run at a pace they weren't ready for. They didn't have the endurance for. I've crashed and burned because I was running at a pace that I didn't have the endurance for. And I think that I'm trying to get better at listening and being like, okay, hey, maybe they're not ready right now, but they will be. Or maybe they're dealing with other stuff and I just need to give them a break. And I would say, like, even with me and the co-founders of Oak Cliff Run Crew is a beautiful example of, like, we all started it together with just us four, and now there's hundreds, and we have to go through constant iterations and questions and asking ourselves, like, are you good? Are you there? Are you where are we at? Like, because we're all so different. And that's one of our favorite parts. As frustrating as we all might get with each other, the beauty of Oak Cliff Run Crew is that it's not just me leading it. It's there's others. And when I'm not at my best, the other one is, and vice versa. And we're able to carry the thing together.
I love that you went into that.
I really like enjoying the community part. I think that was hard for Sam and I, and quite frankly, like, I think the first time was earlier this year that I feel like we went somewhere where we were like, oh, like, this is what it's like to be in community without feeling like we had to help, volunteer, or lead something, where we were like just genuinely enjoying the people around us. And I think from that point is when we really felt, it's like we felt reignited, like re-sparked, like we felt like, okay,
that second wind.
And we didn't go there very many times. It was just a few, but it was just so nice to be almost like nobody in a room and just be like, oh, like, this is what it feels to just coexist with people and talk to people and not feel like we had to be so hyper aware of everything around us because we were trying to lead or make sure everything was going right. And it was just like a true moment of like, whoa. And we left that place feeling like, dang, that was so nice to just show up and leave without having to think about anything else. And I think from there, that's kind of like where Coffee with Friends was like, I just want people to show up and not have to think about anything else other than showing up, experiencing community, and going home after.
Yeah.
And not having to think, oh, we got to tear down, we got to clean up, we got to, no, like just show up, go home, or go wherever you're going. Like, even if it's quick, you have stuff to do, just come get a free cup of coffee or latte or whatever and leave. Like, you don't have to do anything to be a part of this. You just show up and enjoy the community, which can be difficult sometimes when you feel like you're consistently having to lead or do something or help with something. And I think like that was something we just recently learned too.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and we had to learn it, because I love it. You said that you have to be able to have that. And I think it comes down to self-awareness.
Yeah.
Like, knowing when you wake up and you feel like there's a need, I feel the need. Like, that's, I love what you said. Like, that's how you know you're supposed to lead something.
Yeah.
And I would say it's not be a leader, it's lead something. Because sometimes you can lead and not be a leader. Like, lead a whole thing. Like, you can just be another cog in the machine. But when you wake up and you feel like you have a need, like, I see a need, I want to fill the need, that's an indication you need to get up and do some work and do something. But also the sense that you were talking about, like, where do you need to fall back and fall into community and enjoy it, like Xiomi was saying? Because I agree, and I can relate to that because of that. You know, when you're running at a certain speed for so long and you pour into people for so long, you end up pouring out of an empty cup. That's where burnout comes in. That's when sin comes in and you mess up, you don't think right, you do things irrationally, you lead out of a place of lack, not out of a place of overflow, and then now you start hurting people. What you say comes off differently, and how you act. And that's where a lot of, I think, the issues that leaders and just communities have is when people are starting to operate out of that place and not out of the refreshment of others. And that's when things start going sideways. And I think that having the self-awareness that you were saying about knowing when your season is to sit back and then pour in and sit back. And that's the thing. It's a season. It's an ebb and flow. Like, you're never supposed to lead for the rest of your life.
Yeah, exactly.
And you're never supposed to not lead for anything at all. Like, we're all called to be leaders no matter what, right? Whether it's big or small. But I think the temptation is for us to just lead, do. What's the next thing? Because I agree. I'm the same way. Like, I have hundreds of ideas. And I'm always like, which one do I have to do? And it's like, sometimes you just got to slow down and look at yourself and be like, what part in my life do I need to be refreshed right now? Yeah. Rather than do.
Absolutely.
Because if I do this thing, it might work, but it will be built on a foundation that's super shaky, or I'll hurt people in the process. The whole
like we were talking about before we started this, like during the pandemic, for me, I had that run-in where I was like, I cannot lead. I need to be led. I need to be cared for. Because I'm broken and I'm not in a good place. And thank God that I did that, because if not, I wouldn't be on here in front of you.
Can you take us a little bit into that process of that, kind of like where you were being led and
so at that point of my life, at that stage of my life, I was very much leading a community that depended on my care and attention at some levels. And so at that time, we had COVID was just starting. And it's crazy because I had just got back from New York in February of 2020, not having any idea what was about to happen. March hits, and I get a call that someone I grew up with and who was a dear friend of mine at one stage in my life, unfortunately, someone took his life. And I was already I didn't know how deep, but I was in a very broken, empty cup stage, like what you were talking about. And I remember being at the funeral, and I was supposed to speak. I was asked to speak at this funeral, and I'm standing over his casket. And that's when that was the first time where it really hit me that, like, oh man, like I'm not good. Like, I can't keep going. Like, here I am supposed to encourage this room full of people who just lost a dad, a brother, a son, a friend. And I'm just like, how am I going to encourage these people? Like, I need to be encouraged. Like, I need motivation. And so I went into a season of just not leading. Like, I went into, I share with you, I deleted all my social media. I'll say the reason why I deleted my social media is because at that time, my struggle is instead of healing and instead of taking a step back, I would look on social media and think, I gotta step my game up. I gotta I gotta go in there and keep doing stuff. And it was a big reality check for me where like it was the first time in my adult life that I realized how big my ego was.
Wow.
How big my pride was. Cause I think like I would have prided myself in not having an ego, not having a pride, it being about the community, blah, 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 the things we say. And it was in that moment I was like, dude, you got major issues. You need to delete your social media and you need to go into a place of healing and being quiet.
Yeah.
And it was the best decision, top 3 decisions of my life.
Wow.
That saved my life, that allowed me to keep going. And my big mantra is keep going. And I was be like, to keep going, you got to take breaks. Like you got to do these things to keep going. Like keep going doesn't mean I'm every day on point.
Yeah.
There's things you do to keep going.
Yeah.
Like I run, then I rest.
Yeah.
I run and then I rest. You know, it's like that ebbs and flows.
Yeah. How did that affect, obviously you're kind of talking about it a little bit, but like how did that affect your mental health, that break, that stop of going, like keep going and stopping, resting, going, stopping, resting? How did that affect your mental health throughout that season? Because that was a tough season for everybody, but you were coming off the tail end of some really difficult things and dealing with a lot of stuff in your life. So how did that affect your mental health in any way, shape, or form?
I mean, during that time, my mental health, I would probably say wasn't the best because of all the things going on. But again, I mean, I don't want to sound like I'm complaining because I'm so grateful that I still had a mindset of like, even though I knew I was in a darker moment of my life, I knew in my head that like, there's what's possible and that I had been here before. I had been in a place where like I was going to have to come through the other side. Yeah. And so it definitely didn't happen overnight. I mean, I had good friends that I was in. I would say in that season, I needed to kind of readjust my community. And so I depended on like very couple of friends that I could vent to and trust with very private information and just being able to, they allowed me to vent in a safe way because they knew who I was and they knew that I was in a weak place and that wasn't necessarily my best that I was bringing forth. And so thankfully those people allowed me space and grace to grow and to get back on my feet and to get back in the game. And so my mental health during that ebbed and flowed. I mean, it was never, I've never had it go like so far gone, but it was definitely up and down.
Yeah. And how, going into kind of like the whole men's mental health side of it, how was that being a man and all the, just the stereotypes and the things that we have about like dealing with emotions and sharing emotions? Like, how did that kind of manifest itself with you when you said you had people around you, people you could trust? Like, did you ever have that kind of weird kind of whole thing where you grow up like, oh, you're not supposed to show your emotions, don't ask for help? Like, did you ever have a tension like that as a guy? Because I know I did. Probably plenty of guys out there. We grow up with this sense of like, oh, you got to be hard. You got to, you know. Did you ever deal with that? And if so, like, do you still struggle with that? Have you moved on from that? Like, take us into that whole relationship with that sense of humanity as a male.
Yeah, definitely growing up, that was, everyone wants to pretend they're hard, blah, blah, blah. As I got older, I think I definitely, because of being in community that I was in and the things that I was doing allowed me to really like open myself up. And I don't really struggle with that only because I'm a very open person. I like to share. I like to be an open book and transparent. That's just my personality. So I'm lucky. I'm not special. It's not a gift. It's just, I just like to be open, transparent. But my dad, he was a prime example of that mentality of men where it's like, therapy's not a question.
Yeah.
I'm good. I don't like, because unfortunately for men my dad's age, which are the number one people losing their life right now to suicide, especially in America, is because they came up in that environment. Again, community can be good and community can be bad. And where community has gone bad for a lot of men is these environments where you pull yourself up by your bootstraps. You don't share. You're hardcore. You lead. We're over women. We're not soft. It's soft to talk and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And so I think that that's changing for sure now.
Yeah.
I think a big passion of mine with Say Less and the things that I'm doing is to show that you as a man, you don't have to do a podcast. You don't have to post about it, but at least find some people to talk to.
Yeah.
Like, don't be afraid to share. And because you're lying if you say you don't struggle. Like we're what we would call a coward.
Yeah.
Someone who's like, I'm dealing with this,
Yeah,
my girl, she don't
yeah.
like, oh, look at this guy. Like, no, like the brave man speaks up. The brave man stands up. The brave man says, I need help.
Yeah.
Like, that's courage.
Yeah.
And we got to change that narrative.
And
again, and also, like, look, guys that are like that, there's a reason why they're like that. People forget, like, not everybody grows up in the same context. We're all the way we are for a reason. I had a loving father and a loving mother that loved me and helped me and nurtured me. And that's why I might be a little more able to articulate my feelings and be the way I am. But some guys didn't have a father. Some guys grew up in very traumatic environments, and the last thing they want to do is talk about their issues because it's going to expose the thing that's holding them back. And so thank God for men today who are standing up, who are opening up about their traumas, who are opening up about their issues, because that is what's going to save the next man.
Oh, man.
Like, that's what's going to help the next man. Because the next man, because as we do as we see, like, you can be told all day, hey, speak up. Hey, say something. Like, that ain't going to do nothing. Like, men need to see other men step up and say, enough is enough. Here's what I'm dealing with. Here's what I'm going through. And that's like, for me, like, I went through a divorce, and as I went through a divorce in an environment community where it's very frowned upon, very like, I don't celebrate it. I wish it upon nobody. I don't blame myself. I don't blame my ex. I mean, if anything, I would say it was my fault because I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know how to be a man and lead a woman. I still would never dare say I do, but like, I'm opening it up and I'm saying it publicly because, like, it doesn't mean my life is over.
Come on.
Like, welcome to the party, bro. Like, we all got L's. We all take losses. And I champion this mindset that the only real L is to not go for it, to not try. Like, I have zero regrets about being in a church and being a pastor and have been married and my life changing and looking different now. And it's going to continue to change and evolve. Like, I may not be doing this next year. I may have decided to do something else. I joke with my friends. I'm like, I may be a DJ next year. I don't know. Like, who knows what I'm going to do? But as men to know, and women, that your mistakes are not your identity.
Come on.
Like, that's not who you are.
Dang, my boy's
It's
teaching right
it's just
now.
a part. Put
I
that
love
on,
how you said that.
put that on threads or something.
I love that you said that. We're gonna pause, take a break, and hop back in. And we're gonna hop back in, and it's gonna get a little personal. I'm gonna share my kind of back and forth during, specifically, actually, the season we were together.
Okay.
And how I did that terribly, and all the things that happened due to that, and what I've learned through that time. But we're going to take 5. We'll see you guys in a second. All right, guys, we're back from a little break here. We're going to finish this kind of part 2 of this podcast, sharing a little bit of like some personal stuff and just some things that we've learned and gone through. Again, you guys know that we are not ashamed or afraid of exposing our faults. We are the first ones to call them out because we'd rather call them out than have other people call them out before we do. So
That's good.
Yeah,
That's
we're
smart.
yeah we're the first ones. But the reason we're doing this is, again, we're talking about mental health, specifically mental health awareness month. You know, I want to kind of like bring people on. I've talked a little bit about this testimony of my mental health journey. The big climax of that, the culmination of that, happened actually in a very interesting season of life where I was leading a lot of things and helping build a community actually alongside these incredible people here in Dallas. And it was an interesting...
We're survivors.
We're survivors.
We're survivors of Sam.
Yeah,
actually.
Honestly, yes.
I mean,
I'm
throw back
joking, I'm
to
joking.
the conversations we'd have at the Wild Detectives where you'd be like, you need to break up with him.
Yeah. No, guys, seriously, it was crazy.
Yeah,
It was
don't come to
crazy.
me for advice.
He's like, you need
I'ma
to break
tell
up
you.
with him. I think in hindsight, you were right.
Oh, yeah,
You were
absolutely.
right. You were right. In hindsight, you were right.
Yeah.
I was just being stubborn.
Absolutely.
And I mean,
Yeah. I
You
mean,
were
I can
definitely right.
see me telling you to break up with him.
Yeah,
I can see that.
you did.
Over a nice
More than was.
cappuccino
I
at like
think
10 p.m.
you told it to me at Wild Detectives, and you told it to me at where's that taco spot we
Dang,
used
she
to go
remembers.
oh, the
Because
taco
it-
spot we'd go to all the
what's the
time.
Taps.
Taps.
Taps, yeah.
Yeah,
I
you
haven't
told
been
it
there
to me.
forever.
Those
Don't talk
It was
about
a
Oak Cliff and
nice-
community unless you've been to these spots.
Yeah, bro, for real. Those were the OG spots.
Dang.
But yeah, I mean, you know, and again, we're saying all this, we're laughing at it now because obviously, like, you know, God redeems things, and here we are, married and going strong. But we went through a lot of stuff. We went through a lot of difficult situations because we did not know self-awareness. Self-awareness was out the door. I had zero self-awareness. Zero. I was running, doing things, not knowing that my engine was falling apart.
Yeah.
Not knowing that I needed an oil change like 100 million miles ago. And again, what's so interesting and why we share this is because this was in the midst of us building something,
Yeah.
leading at a capacity that we weren't supposed to be in any way, shape, or form. But also, here's the other really cool thing, though, and here's what I'll kind of, say about you, though, is that I'm thankful that you gave us those opportunities and that you saw something in us throughout that. And I think like
For
that's
sure.
a big takeaway, is that we were going through our mess, but you saw something but no one else saw. And again, I'll say it again, like, I don't, if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't be where I'm at today or doing what I'm doing now.
Yeah.
So there's something about seeing people and really hearing people and loving people, even when they're at ground zero,
Yeah.
that I think was beautiful. But anyway, so going into that, you know, again, we were a part of building a very beautiful community here in Dallas. And during that time, Xiomi and I met there, and we ended up dating and stuff like that, and we were leading. But there was a lot of unresolved mental health situation that I was dealing with that was under the surface, that I swept under the rug, that didn't come out until later. And usually it doesn't come out until pressure is applied. It's like when you shake a bottle, right? It's like it doesn't happen until it's shaken, where it pops off and explodes. I had no idea I was dealing with those things.
Yeah.
What were those things? I mean, I was just dealing with a lot of like mental health situations. I was dealing with a lot of depression, anxiety, suicidal ideation. A lot of that stuff was repressed from childhood. That didn't come out until I was an adolescent. Thinking back, it's crazy. I was 19 years old, I think. I was
20 when
20?
everything. 19 when we met.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's something like that.
2018. Yeah, 19 when it happened though.
Yeah, so things that
20 when it
didn't come
happened.
out until 19 years of me being on this earth, that I think were made visible because, again, leadership exposes you, community exposes you, being in a relationship exposes you. And the reason I want to talk about this is because where Vince kind of ended off before we took a break, we were talking about your journey and how you had a lot of people around you and that they helped you maneuver and navigate your situation. And that's where you found growth and healing. I didn't do that. I hid everything. And here's what's crazy. I had a loving, incredible community around me
Yeah.
that was willing to go there. And you did. And you
Yeah.
did. Willing to be like, I'll drive 3 hours to go talk to you.
Yeah.
You need to talk. Let's go. I'll pull up. We'll have a conversation. We'll take a drive. I had everything, but I did nothing with it. And I think that's a lot of where a lot of us are.
Yeah.
I think we do have everything that we need, all the people that we need, people that love us and care for us. But at the end of the day, it's our choice to use it or not.
Yeah.
And I chose, in my situation, maybe you watching this, you do this too, or you default to this. I ran. Like I pushed everyone away.
You isolate.
I isolated. Now that, and you were talking about a little bit, like that could be a defense mechanism of like, I don't want people to see, who I really am, or childhood, or things that, traumas and stuff. And I decided to hide myself and push people away from me. And because of that, I never got healing and I never got any growth. Yeah. Rather, I ran and put it to the side and put it to the side, and we say this all the time. That stuff adds up. If you were to put something under a rug, wait a couple days, a couple weeks, that thing is going to go high.
Yeah.
So anyway, we're going to dive into that. But one thing, I want you to speak on this too, because you firsthand saw this and had to deal with the brunt of a lot of that. What was your experience dealing
was awful
with that?
It was hard. It was, I mean, what do you say? Like, it was hard. It was challenging. I mean, I think I was also going through a lot of transition. I was transitioning in my job, in my personal life, and then I met you, and then like I really felt like I saw you for what you're like you could be. And I think that was like the tension I was fighting with, and why, like, yes, like Vince was like, y'all need to break up, because there was a lot of like, I had to be realistic about things, but I'm not that way. I'm not, and so it was very challenging. I mean, I would be crying at work. I think I almost got fired a few times because like you were just spiraling, and I was trying to text you through it, but I was also trying to take orders and serve tables. And, thankfully I had, shout out Brent and Haley for always coming through for me.
They're the real ones.
But
poor you had me and Brent in your head.
I'm so thankful for y'all. Like, that was so helpful to me. Like, even if that was the conversation, like, just because I didn't take it, y'all didn't back off. It was consistent whether I did what I was supposed to or took your advice or I didn't. Like, you guys were so consistent and constant. Like, it wasn't like, oh, she's not going to listen, then all right, like, I'm going to back off. And yeah, like, it was very like with you and with Brent and when Haley, like, even when we did break up, I found most of my community at work. Like, that's where I felt the safest. It's where I felt most myself, most put together. And so I am thankful for that season, because that's really where I found myself the most in my life. In 25 years of my life, like, I feel like that's where I really found myself the most. But I mean, experiencing life and doing life while you were struggling with those things was hard. It was draining. It was difficult. And honestly, if it weren't for Vincent and Haley and Brent and Rosemary and like all the other people surrounding me that were consistent and constant, I wouldn't have. We wouldn't have made it. I wouldn't be here. Things would be drastically different. And I mean, challenging for sure, but I guess I just loved you that much and saw that much potential in you that I was like, you know what, like, maybe this isn't going to be great, but like, it can be great. And also I was just trying to prove a point. Like, your whole thing was like, everybody leaves me. Everybody's just going to, and I just refused to be that
Victim
person.
mentality.
Yeah. And that's the
I
thing.
refused to be that person.
That's the thing that again, like, what's so sobering to me is that that's the narrative we tell ourselves, and it could not be further from a lie.
Oh man.
You know what I mean? So like, because I had, and we all have people that are there that are all constantly proving that narrative wrong. Yeah. But it's crazy. The power of the mind, man. Like, you can create your own narrative, which is what I did. And I believe that more than the reality that was in front of me. So I want to hear from you. Like, there's many people in your communities even now that are struggling and going through things. How do you see people for what they can be, their potential, and like help them go and become that while they're actively pushing you away? Because that's tough. You know, it's tough when you see someone and you're like, there's more for you. I know that this isn't who you are. And it's easy to say that and have someone receive it, but how about the people that want to push that away or tell themselves another narrative? How have you navigated that, and how do you love on people that way? Because you do it so well.
Well, I mean, I would say the reason why I'm even somewhat okay at that is because I've had people do that for me. Like I've had mentors who didn't give up on me. I've had mentors who saw in me something that I didn't see. So I was shown how to do it.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of people, again, aren't shown, like these are not conversations.
Yeah.
Like think about this. I was talking to my mom about this, how you grow up and you're not taught any of these things.
Yeah.
Like we're taught math we'll never use. We're not taught life skills. And if you're one of the rare people who are lucky to have parents who were taught, because they had to be taught to teach it. If you're one of the rare people in our current season of life, like if you're lucky, your parents were taught that, but most of us, our parents weren't taught this stuff. So you either have a coach, you have a mentor, you get lucky. And so I got lucky that I was in a community where I had people believing in me, calling things out of me, helping me to mature in those things. And so that's just to give context to what you're saying. And so now being in community, I'm able to just repeat what was done for me. It's not, I mean, it's really not rocket science. And I struggle with it because again, like, where's the line of like, I believe in you, but at what point, like, you got to believe in yourself. And that's what I ran into with y'all. It's like, I believe in you, but I can only tell you for so long before, hey, I gotta, and it exposes a couple things. It's like either as the leader, you have a savior complex and you think that it's on you and you got to be there and you got to keep going, or it exposes you where it's like you have a victim mentality and I'm just like, oh, I knew he was going to leave me. I knew it. I knew eventually it was going to happen. And so I think in particular to us that there was that moment where we had to come to grips with that. And for me to this day, I'm like, I'm definitely not the savior. I'm definitely not, I can only do so much for you. And I'm only going to go so far. Like I've got my daughter, I've got my partner, I've got people in my life who I won't say depend on me, but like I want to be at my best for them. And so I got to protect that energy because if that's what I learned from that chapter of my life is like, I was trying to give way too much energy to people who weren't trying to even get it. Like they weren't trying to plug in. And then guess who paid for it? The people who were supposed to be getting my energy. And that's why I went through what I went through.
That is so good. Like that is, I think, the things that we don't see because we don't talk about it. We don't see that. Like that's the gravity of that, and the whole savior complex and victim complex. Like you are gonna fall under one of those. Everyone falls under one of those, and it's interesting that how seasons change, those roles change. I definitely was in a victim mindset, and now I find myself leaning towards wanting to be the savior for people. And I'm like, whoa, like I need to check myself because I felt, I got out of that. Great. Not that I don't do that every now and then. Not that I don't attach.
Of course.
But I'm like, oh, cool. And now, but now I'm like, now I see I'm moving the needle on that side. I'm like, that's equally just as bad. And learning how to, like you said, like know the limit and put it on people. I think, I'm gonna be honest, I think sometimes we coddle people too much and don't put that boundary and say, hey, you got to want this for yourself. Like you need to fight for yourself. I wasn't fighting for myself. We weren't fighting for each other. Things like that. But I want to ask you, because on that topic, like, how do you not give up on people when you maybe should, or when they want you to? Like, how do you not do that? How do you keep coming back and coming back when everyone is saying nah?
And I've given up on people. Like, I'm not going to sit here and say I haven't. I mean, even recently, this is part of being in community is when you're around hundreds of people and in community, like things are going to happen.
Yeah.
And so I would say, but how you can stay at least in the game long with someone or and hope and continue.
Yeah,
I think it's just being, like you said, self-aware, like constantly looking in the mirror, and like I will have blow up moments where I'm like so frustrated with somebody.
Yeah.
I'll vent in my safe places. And then I think for me, I have this practice of like, I'll get frustrated. And when I'm by myself, I'll look in the mirror and I'm just like, man, how much grace have you been given? Like how many opportunities are you given constantly? Because when you're a leader, you're making mistakes every day because you're on the front line, you're going, you're doing it. And when I say leader, again, like in the context of like, we're all a leader. We lead ourselves first and foremost. And then if you lead one person, you're a leader. Like if someone's following you, you're a leader.
Yeah.
And so, but yeah, I think that just constantly remembering that like you're not perfect. Like I'm not perfect. Let's not kid ourselves. And I think it takes you getting beat down and making mistakes and the things we've shared on this episode of just like those moments where your ego gets crushed and you realize like, oh dang, like I'm not who I thought I was. And I think it's important that when you're doing that though, because there's like a toxic version of that where it's like you're beating yourself up. You're like, look at me, I'm horrible. I claim to be this, but look at me, I'm like giving up on people, blah,
you're
blah,
like
blah.
Self-deprecating.
Yeah, exactly. Like that's not good either. I don't think, I wouldn't recommend that in my opinion.
No, yeah, you're right. I think, I love that we're talking about mental health and all that stuff, and we're talking about community. Like those are like the two main themes that we're bringing up on this episode. And like the reason that we're doing that is, again, from the beginning of when we started this episode, it's again, therapy, medication, all that's great. But the biggest, most, in my opinion, the most effective and most tried and true remedy is people, community, what type, the people you surround yourself with, all that stuff. And again, like looking at our example in our lives and putting it out there as a testimony, it's like, the moments where I did feel the most seen, most loved, most covered was when you and our community we were building let me into things. Yeah. When I was walking in that victim mentality and like wanting to be the black sheep because I wanted to be the black sheep because I thought that gave me value, which is, again, is so crazy. Like that narrative of isolation in my mind gave me value. Yeah. Because I thought, oh, I'm special because I'm isolated, I'm different, I want to be cast away. I was like, no, right? But like
I'm not like y'all.
Yeah, exactly. But like that's the thing. Like in reality, a lot of us do that. Like that's why we choose that. It's like, oh, because I don't want to be like everyone. I want to be misunderstood. Yeah. And that was like my thing. Like that was my idol. Yeah. I wanted to be misunderstood. I wanted to be different. All that stuff.
Still just want to be different, babe.
But yeah,
we just had this conversation in the car.
But I think that like the most life-giving moments was when everyone was like, hey, come, like just let's do life together. And whether we just joked about this offline, like whether it was like, let's write a track about it together. Go do a video or a photo shoot or something, or just like, let's just let it out. And that's honestly where we found our avenues and like our outlets. Of dealing with that. For me, it's music. For Xiomi, it was, serving people and coffee and writing in her books and like all that stuff. And for you, it's all the things that you do right now and loving on people. Right now, it's Say Less and Oak Cliff Run Crew. But doesn't matter what it looks like in the title. It's all the same. Like it doesn't change. Maybe seasons change it. But at the end of the day, like it's all the same thing. And that's where I saw the most life change and transformation was when I was surrounded with people that really loved me, but included me and invited me into something more. And it's because of that, I said it earlier, I'm standing on the shoulders of the people that put me in that position. Yeah. That's why I am where I'm at now. Yeah. Not perfect, still struggle. I'm a mess. Or like I said, a wreck of a mess a couple episodes ago. But it's like I'm standing on the shoulders of that, of the encouragements, of the time, the most valuable thing any of us can have, time, the conversations, the late night conversations, the, conversations that felt like they were going nowhere, that you may feel like are going nowhere with that person you're believing for, but they are.
Yeah.
They go so far.
And the common theme of what we're talking about is like the things that you need to grow in and fix are exposed in community. So that's why the most dangerous person and the most dangerous people are the people that aren't in community and are sitting at home and they're all up in their head and they're thinking about all these things and they're looking on social media and they're thinking like, and you have this like, you catastrophize the world's against you. Look at everyone. They're all moving on. They don't care. And it couldn't be more far from the truth.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
We're dangerous when we're by ourselves. Like I know I am. Like I need people that I can vent to, that I can talk to and process thoughts with, because we're all in our heads and we can easily make up any narrative we want.
Yeah.
And it doesn't even have to be true.
Yeah. And that right there is exactly where I was in and a lot of us were in. But I want to end off with you just sharing just some final nuggets, just spitting some game. Just some final thoughts.
Game spitter.
Yeah, or, you know, some freestyle.
In regards to what?
Anything and everything, anything that's on your heart, anything and everything that you're believing for people. Just, I'm going to put it this way to make it a little bit more philosophical and deep. Again, going back to the beginning. If you had the world's attention for these next couple of minutes right now, what would you leave them with?
That's a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
I mean, I think we've talked about so many great things. I just think that it's so important that we really, first and foremost, just give grace to ourselves and remember that, like I said in the beginning, like I'm a human being who's imperfectly executing on life. Like I have no intentions of nailing it, being perfect. I'm going to make mistakes. I'm going to mess up. I mean, once you become a parent, it becomes very apparent that you don't know what you're doing. Like you can try your best. You can do all the things, but we're dealing with fragile humans. Like we're all human. And I think that it's so important that we give grace to ourselves, like I said, but also give grace to each other. I think this, in our context, is like a testament of like, we haven't spoken in quite a while. But when I don't know what's going on right now, because all of a sudden there's a few people in my life that are reaching out and I'm just saying yes, because I'm like, I did my healing. I got in the dark. I dealt with the stuff. And now I feel like I'm just saying less. Let's go. Let's do it. Let's make a difference. Let's keep impacting. And that's a prime example of like, to keep going, you sometimes you got to stop, recalibrate, like you said, oil change, and then you get to keep going. And I think that's a good way to end it, is like, if you're in a place right now where you feel like you need an oil change, you need to heal, you need to talk to someone, you need to get help, it's okay, because we're here to tell you, like, we all have done it, we all need it, and this won't be the last time.
No,
for sure.
Like, we're gonna go through iterations of this, because we're gonna keep growing and we're gonna keep learning things, new ways of thinking that are better than the old ways. And so I would encourage you, if you're in that place, like if you're feeling the nudge, maybe take a break from social media, maybe take a break from things, so you're not constantly looking and thinking everybody's got their stuff together, because we don't. These are highlights. Remember that? Like, this is like, I talk about, it's like 95% work and then 5% of these highlights you get to see. But the work, let's not forget the work. Let's not forget the blood, sweat, and tears that produce the 5%. And if you're but on the other side, because a lot of times we focus on that in these conversations. But also I would say, like, where I'm at, it's like, if you're feeling healthy, you feel good, you feel like you're moving in all cylinders, go. Like, because you may not get that again. Like, you may not have that same energy again, because we're all getting older. We're all going to keep going. It's inevitable. And so if you have the energy, go, do it, try it, fail, learn. Like I said, the only L is to not go, to not try it. And if it doesn't work out, great. Like, that's not what you're going to do, and you go do something else.
Man,
that's good.
I love that.
It's good.
Show grace and forgive.
Yeah.
I think the beauty of this is, we talked about a lot of good stuff. Like you said, like, this is the first time we've talked in a long time. And like you said, just showing grace towards one another, forgiving one another, owning where you failed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
asking for
And
forgiveness.
saying sorry.
Saying sorry.
Yeah.
Like,
And I'll be
everybody wants to be forgiven,
Yeah,
but what
it's
about
true.
saying sorry
Yeah.
for the things you did wrong?
Yeah, and I'll be
Yeah.
the first one to say it right here on camera and on the
Oh,
record.
boy.
Like
Oh,
I am,
snap.
I am sorry for everything I put you through, and for handling things wrong, for transitioning wrong, leaving wrong, saying things, whatever. Like I take ownership of that, and I'm thankful that both of you have shown me so much grace and love and have accepted me with open arms. The fact that you even said yes to this
Yeah, for sure.
is a lot. Again, some of you guys may know context, some of y'all may not know, but this man is just such an inspiration and a huge part of our lives and to so many people. And he's gone through so much, and to see him so healthy, happy, running at 100, doing the same thing that he did when we did it with you, just looking different.
Yeah,
It's just
different.
God is so good and he's so faithful and so inspiring. So just thank you for
Yeah.
being
Thank you
on
guys.
here. We're excited
Thank
for
y'all
all
for being crazy enough to ask me to follow me and to do this.
always, anytime, and we do it again.
Yeah.
Do it again. So we're excited for what you got going on with Oak Cliff Run Crew, with Say Less Projects, for your next project. That's coming up soon, right?
Yeah.
So we'll be on the lookout for that. We'll be promoting that, shouting you guys out, and
Awesome.
cheering you
Thank
guys
you.
on and throughout everything that y'all
Yeah.
do. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
Any final words?
No, just thank you for saying yes.
Yeah.
We value you, and we consider you part of like the foundational parts of who we are. So thank you.
Yeah. All right, I'm gonna stop talking because then I'm gonna start crying.
I
I'm
already
being
started crying.
Straight up. I'm literally gonna start crying. But anyway, thank you guys for coming
Yes.
out for episode number 6. First
Yes,
guest of all
thank you.
time.
What an honor.
Not the
I
last.
appreciate it.
We're definitely gonna have him back on sometime.
For sure.
Again, but we love you guys. Take it easy. Hope you
Yep.
enjoyed. See y'all later. Oh, hit us with the outro. I can't forget it. What's the outro?
Man, have fun.
Have fun.
Go live your best life,
Go live your best life
and go get coffee with friends.
and go get coffee, friends. Love you guys. Take it easy.